Charlamagne Tha God is at it again, and this time, he's got Drake in his crosshairs. If you've been paying attention, you already know Charlamagne has never been the biggest Drake fan. But this latest jab, it's got the internet buzzing. Imagine the scene. Drake drops his new album, and before the hype even settles, Charlamagne jumps in with the heat. Drake's new album lacks soul. Boo! Get off the stage. It's like A-I-N-B. That's not just criticism. That's a full-on mic drop. And the message is clear. Charlamagne thinks Drake's music is starting to sound artificial, like something generated by AI rather than an artist pouring his heart out. Now, let's be real. Whenever Drake releases music, the conversation is always loud. Some people are ready to call it a classic on day one. Others are quick to tear it apart. But this idea that his album lacks soul, that hits differently. Because when a song lacks soul, it's not just about whether it sounds good. It's about whether it feels real, whether it moves you, whether it connects. And that's the thing. Music is supposed to hit you somewhere deep. The best songs make you feel something, even if you don't fully understand why. When Marvin Gaye sang What's Going On, you felt the pain in his voice. When Kanye dropped Runaway, you could hear the regret and vulnerability bleeding through every note. Even when Drake himself released Marvin's Room, it was messy, raw, and real. That's what people mean when they talk about soul in music. It's not about a perfect beat or flawless vocals. It's about authenticity. So when Charlamagne says Drake's album lacks soul, he's not just saying the music isn't good. He's saying it doesn't feel real. And that's a heavy accusation. But here's the bigger question. Why does everybody think every song has to be perfect? Somewhere along the way, we stopped letting artists just be. Every album gets judged against impossible standards. If an artist experiments, people say they're falling off. If they stick to their usual sound, people say they're getting boring. It's a lose-lose situation. Drake is in a unique position because he's been on top for so long. He's one of the few artists who can drop an album, and the whole world stops to listen. But that kind of success comes with a price. People expect every song to be a masterpiece. And if it's not, the criticism is ruthless. Maybe that's what Charlamagne is really getting at. He's not just saying Drake's album lacks soul. He's saying that Drake is creating music that sounds happy, but doesn't feel happy. Like he's chasing an energy that isn't really there. Like he's going through the motions, trying to make hits instead of making something real. And if that's true, it's a deeper issue than just one album. It raises a much bigger question. Can an artist at Drake's level still make music that feels genuine? Or does success eventually make that impossible? Think about it. The best music often comes from struggle, from hunger, from having something to prove. But Drake has already proved everything. He's won every award, broken every record, and cemented himself as one of the biggest artists of all time. What else is there to say? That's the challenge of being at the top. How do you keep making music that feels real when you've already conquered everything? Maybe that's why people are starting to feel like Drake's music is losing its soul. Not because he isn't talented, not because he isn't trying, but because he's too successful to struggle anymore. And maybe that's why his music is starting to feel like AI. Not because he's literally using AI, but because it feels calculated. Like he's making songs that he knows will stream well, instead of songs that actually come from a deep, personal place. But then again, what do people really want? If Drake dropped an album full of sad, emotional songs, people would say he's stuck in his feelings. If he drops an album with nothing but bangers, people say it lacks depth. If he tries something new, people say he's forcing it. At this point, it feels like no matter what he does, someone will find a reason to say it's not enough. That's the reality of being Drake. He's not just an artist anymore, he's a standard. And when you are the standard, people expect perfection every time. But here's the truth, perfection isn't what makes music great. Some of the best songs in history are imperfect. Tupac's Dear Mama wasn't the cleanest mix, but you felt every word. Kanye's Through the Wire was recorded with his jaw wired shut, but that's what made it powerful. Even Jay-Z's song Cry has moments where his voice cracks, but that's what makes it real. Music isn't supposed to be perfect. It's supposed to be human. And maybe that's the irony of all this. Charlamagne is accusing Drake of making AI music, but the truth is, people are demanding music that sounds too perfect. Artists are afraid to take risks because the internet tears them apart the second they do. Every album gets dissected, every song gets analyzed, and every move gets criticized. The result? Artists start playing it safe. They stick to what works. They give people what they think they want. And in the process, something gets lost. So maybe Charlamagne has a point. Maybe Drake's new album does lack soul. Maybe it does feel like AI. But if that's true, the blame doesn't fall entirely on Drake. It falls on us. Because we're the ones who made music a game of perfection instead of passion. We're the ones who expect every album to be flawless. We're the ones who made artists afraid to be vulnerable. And now we're wondering why music doesn't feel the same.